Hi everyone. So, what are the best sources of vitamin E? So, for those of you who want the fast answers, here they are on this table, and I'll quickly talk you through it as fast as I can. So, per 100 grams is a straight weight race. Yeah. So, why? Because it ranks raw concentration of vitamin E when comparing it to label planners. For example, if you got a wheat germ oil, it's obviously going to have more vitamin E than maybe a raw avocado, right? But per 100 calories is when we look at the energy density. So how much energy is got in there per and how much vitamin E is got per 100 calories as well. That's when it starts getting a little bit more interesting because now you're going to see where you're going to get more bang for your buck. So for those of you who are on a bit of an energy deficit or a bit of a budget and don't want to increase your calories too much, but still want to get a good amount of vitamin E, that's when things like spinach, broccoli, even almonds to an extent start to come in with a decent ratio as well. So dry weight shows a true concentration after water is removed, and that's why watery foods look weaker by weight. But don't dismiss the greens because of the water. So cooked spinach leaves the same amount of vitamin E as a little bit of wheat germ oil as well. So it's definitely something that I would recommend to consider, and also different factors to consider when you're choosing an item to try and get a vitamin E in. Hello, everyone. My name is Paddy. I am a dietitian, and today I'm going to talk about what are the best foods for vitamin E. And that was the fast answer for those of you who wanted them. And here I'll go into a bit more detail in today's video. I'm going to talk about what vitamin E does, what are the best foods, what are the global dietary recommended values, and how we can kind of adjust our diet to make sure we're getting enough vitamin E. So I've already talked about the best sources, and that's going to be your wheat germ oils, sunflower oil, seeds, almonds. So see the table on the first slide. But these are quite energy dense. So your low calorie options are going to be boosting your spinach and broccoli in as well. Top tip is probably mix a few of them together to make sure you're getting enough. Why is it important? So vitamin E, the numbers vary by method, but essentially vitamin E is important because it helps to protect the fats in the cell wall and it helps to support overall oxidative balance. So when we have a lot of damaged underlying inflammation, it's called oxidative stress, and vitamin E in its standard form helps to protect us from a little bit of that as well. So, what are the global actual values of vitamin E and how much do we actually need? So, this is a table comparing USA, Australia, China, Singapore, UK, and each of them has slightly different recommendation, and it's because of how they define it as well. The USA has a recommended daily allowance, and Australia has an average intake, and the China looks at recommended nutrition intake, and Singapore uses a recommended daily allowance as well. And as you can see, the ones that give you a target kind of are slightly higher, so between 14 and 15 milligrams a day. And whereas Australia, who suspects an average intake, is slightly on the lower side as well. So why do they differ? The main reason is because of population studies. So they look at what people are getting into their diet already, what they get from their environment, how it's grown, and the genetic profiles of the people as well. And then these DRVs change on based of how old you are, how young you are, if you're unwell, if you've got liver disease, for instance, or if you're, I don't know, pregnant or something like that as well. So all these factors make a difference as well, and that's why they vary based off the countries. And it's also different risk models. Everybody in healthcare has got an opinion, and every country has a top global scientist. So, and sometimes these guys disagree and they interpret the information differently as well. How can we make it more bioavailable? So bioavailable is actually means that we can increase the amount of vitamin E that we get from the food that we're eating to make it kind of more accessible to us, right? So the easiest way is always to add a little bit of fat, and that's because fat and bile carry the micelles that carry the vitamin E across the gut. So, for instance, 1 tablespoon of olive oil on greens, for example, or broccoli tossed in a teaspoon of oil, or using an emulsion dressing, because these tiny droplets increase contact with the watery gut contents, and this allows our gut to absorb the vitamin E, and then that then allows it to pass through the liver for the liver to then use it as well. So if this kind of stuff helps us to absorb it better, what's going to make it worse? So actually cooking at a very high heat, so frying at a high heat, cooking at a high heat, putting things in a wood stone oven probably makes things a little bit worse. and actually refining the grains as well. So when we take the germ and bran off the whole grain and refine it to like a white grain, that takes away some of these micronutrients as well. So when you're choosing something like a millet or a flour, always try and choose a whole grain example, just because we still get some of the raw vitamin E as well. So also some anticoagulant medications can interact with high dose vitamin E. So where that works on a 2-chain basis as well. So always check if you're taking a supplement for this to make sure you're speaking with your dietitian or you're speaking with your doctor based off what's your recommended daily allowance. So why is this relevant for liver disease? So your liver's packed with delicate membranes, and the vitamin E actually helps to protect from the oxidative stress. And how it stops the intake and beats steady bursts essentially. So for example, nuts, seeds, and greens across the week, as we have them more regularly, we get a more steady supply of vitamin E in our bloodstream and our liver, and that in turn helps to protect some of the cells in the liver as well, and offers a protective effect. And I've talked about this in some of my other videos, so feel free to check those out when you've got some time. Why is it relevant for the gut? Because the gut needs bile and pancreatic enzymes to kind of assemble the micelles to help us absorb that vitamin E and package it nicely. Why is this important? Is because actually in decompensated liver disease or alcohol-related liver disease, this we know that bile flow and pancreatic enzymes can sometimes be reduced or not be hitting the right target at the right time. And this can actually increase fat malabsorption states and actually make us more likely to be vitamin E deficient as well. So this is just something important to consider for if you've got a liver disease that you might be a little bit deficient in your vitamin E. So trying to get it in your diet or speaking with your dietitian is going to be really important. Fortified options. So some cereals are now fortified with vitamin E, and this is important as well. I know people don't like to ultra process things, but I think if you add in vitamins and minerals into whole foods or foods where we can increase the function of them, then that's a big win here. And this makes them less energy dense, but also more nutritious as well, because we're getting vitamin E at a more bioavailable form and state, which allows us to use it better. But yeah, that's the end of today's video, guys. If you liked it, feel free to give me a follow or share it with anybody that you find interesting as well. But yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.